Joins us on the Goldberg, Noon Abraham Law Firm hotline, goldberg-law.com. He's Ken Kavanaugh, athletic director at FGCU for over a decade now. Ken, top of the morning to you. How are you?
All right. Good morning, guys. Glad to have rain today.
Oh, absolutely.
Awesome. My goodness. All right. Listen, you know why we wanted you on the show, but then you said, hey, while I'm on, I've got some news. So what do you got?
Well, we're excited. As you mentioned, I've been here 10 years, and we're now 20 years finishing up as an athletic department, and we feel it's finally time to start a Hall of Fame. And I've always felt that a Hall of Fame class should include individuals that have been out, for the most part, at least 10 years so they can enjoy it more. And there's a gentleman that plays for the Boston Red Sox that I believe will probably be elected to that first class who will be out 10 years. So we will commence a Hall of Fame this year. We still haven't picked the individuals, but we are looking forward to COVID settling down and for Andy Enfield and the USC Trojans to come into town in November and honor Andy and the Dunk City team as our first overall inductees come November.
Terrific. And it's not overdue, but it's nice that the timing fits, and sounds like, as we've talked today about, our poll question today, Ken, was if we gave free tickets to either one of your games or an Everblades game, would you go? And a month ago, we ran a similar question in which 40%, 45% said they would go. Today, we're at like 75%. So I think we're seeing people looking forward to the fall and those type of things. And if everything keeps running according to Hoyle and we can get out of COVID-19 land by the fall, your timing is perfect.
Yeah, it would be exciting. And David, who's done a wonderful job, representing our program over the years and is on the committee with Dana Caldwell and Donna Sublett and some other great fans of ours, so we can get a cross-section of individuals to give us thoughts when we pick these folks, is in a position where, he was, I think, the first one that said the words out of mouth. He or Susan Evans, who's our tremendous vice president, and just discussing, hey, we can't start this without putting in Dunk City. And to let you know, our normal bylaws will be you need to wait 20 years for a team. And again, the reasoning for that, similar to what I mentioned earlier, to let somebody enjoy it. 20 years past, people are normally, if they go in really early, they're in their early 40s and probably have, one, the wherewithal to get back, and two, enjoy the memories a little bit more. So, but again, this program and just the fact that of all years we're playing home against USC, it just fit very well.
Well, I would think you have a chance to make it a big deal. Andy coming to town, you could probably have an event the night before, and then obviously the first Tuesday of the regular season. And I'm guessing, based on the events of recent weeks, I'd say a couple of weeks ago, Ken, that USC game was really in doubt. I think right now that it's more likely than not that the game will be played. Weren't you concerned about whether or not that game was even going to be played 2 weeks ago?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm still concerned right now. And, there's two elements of it. One certainly is the ability to compete. And that's what we're in the business for young men and women to have that opportunity. But, the financial implications of us playing, but playing without fans is still not only very much out there, but would be very significant to us. So, we all have to just continue to follow the experts and do safety first. But, let's hope that this thing continues to head in the direction it's been more the last week for everybody's health, and then in turn to do what we try to do and give resources to young men and women that most importantly get an education, which we're excited about on Sunday when we have a number of athletes graduating this weekend.
Ken, can you give us any updates, if you have them, from your university president as to what the discussions are like for the fall for the campus? I mean, I know that's, we do sports, but we've always contended that there's going to be no fall sports if there's no kids on campus. I mean, if kids aren't on campus, you can't play. So what are the discussions? Because I'm sure your university president is getting the same line that Florida State, all the state schools in Florida are getting. So what are you hearing about the possibilities of what they're talking about of having kids on campus, regular, full kids on campus come this fall semester?
Well, I just think it's still under exploratory discussions. And, I think that's the great leadership we've been keep getting from Dr. Martin is that, don't make decisions until you need to. Make sure you have all the information to make the best decision at that particular juncture. But, I see a lot of different schools coming out and saying, we're not opening, we're opening. It's not even May 1st yet. So I think there'll be a time frame at some point that those decisions will have to be finalized. I know Dr. Martin has been very involved with the Board of Governors and the other presidents in the state university system discussing this on a regular basis. So, we're just going to continue to plan that it's going to happen, and that come August 1st, within reason, our fall teams will come back, so on and so forth. And if it doesn't occur that way, well, then we put Plan B into effect and, figure out what we're going to do. And there's still possibilities that would include starting the semester online and then, bringing students to campus at some safe point during the semester, which for us, again, we keep thinking, if we could get to that point where everything works out when we get to November 9th and 10th, which is when we would be playing USC and we'd be honoring this team, it could hopefully all come to fruition.
I thought it was noteworthy that the University of Miami president indicated yesterday that they plan on opening up in full for the fall semester in August. I understand that's a private university, but also Miami with the biggest hot spot, if you will, in the state in terms of the coronavirus. So the fact that they came out yesterday and indicated that it's their plan to go full steam ahead, one would think that that would bode well for decision makers in the rest of the state. All right, the reason that we brought you on was to talk about what it is the NCAA pressed forward with yesterday. One, do you think that that impacts FGCU in any way for 2020?
No, I really don't. I mean, we're at our level, there's going to be relatively few individuals who are going to fit into that situation where they're going to probably see the resources that everybody keeps talking about. You just think about Chris Sale, as great a player as he was, and he eventually got voted National Player of the Year in baseball. He was very well known by scouts. David, and Mark probably as well, that, anytime Chris pitched for us, the scouts packed the very small press box we had at the time. But he wasn't even known well enough that people, if they knew then what they know now, we would have had probably 1,000 or 1,500 people averaging every time he pitched for us, but that wasn't the case. So, there's the Dunk City era probably would have definitely created a lot of interest. You look at other individuals within our mid-major ranks, maybe a Jay Morant for Murray State as he was making his great season a year ago go toward, being a top pick in the NBA draft. But it's mainly going to be at the high-end schools that, one, have a lot of media exposure and have student athletes at institutions with tremendous following. So we all just have to follow through it. I think it's a common balance that we're all looking for that allows individuals that are students to be treated like students with their athletic fame that they've made, but at the same time to do have the quote-unquote guardrails that they have out there so that it just doesn't tip things over. Now, for us, the main issue, besides following NCAA rules, is going to be the guidelines that they have so that as an institution, we wouldn't have an individual or individuals take away resources that, say, a corporate sponsor would be giving us that help our entire athletic department that one individual will benefit from. And that's where, you see that nobody can have logos on anything that they're going to do because they don't want to have that connection to the institution. If it's them really as an individual that are doing whatever they're doing as an artist or a musician or whatever it may be, then it should just be them without needing the logo. Zion Williamson obviously was phenomenal individual last year in terms of his exposure. How much of that was Duke and how much of it was him? Because, you hear about some of these recruits, but he wasn't LeBron, before he got to Duke. And then in turn, he was one of the top recruits in the country. But when you put the Duke uniform on, the national exposure they get and Zion's tremendous skills, well, then he really started to pop. So they got to work through that. That's not something we at FGCU, or I think many schools like us right now, are worried about. We're worried about the framework of it. So when we do get that special individual, we can handle it.
To Ken's point on Chris Sale, I always bring this up when we talk about Sale with FGCU. My father and my son and I went to see his last start. I counted the people in the stands at the first pitch. It was 146, I believe. Now, Ken had an event going on in that down the right field line upstairs. So I know there was a bunch of the people, some boosters and things like that. So there's probably another 100 people there, but basically 250 people at first pitch of Chris Sale's last game, just to emphasize what Ken's talking about with his athletes. But I want to get to something you said in that answer, Ken. You made the comment, I want to see if I got it right, that you don't that individuals can't take away from the university. So let's just use a car dealership, and we'll, Mark's car dealership, and I want to grab one of Carl Semesco's kids because I like the girls basketball program and I want to put her on my commercial. But I also am giving the athletic department money. Help me out. Is that legal?
No, you got to separate the two. So and we have Coconut Point Ford as
right.
our, valued dealer. So that's where, again, it's trying to create the situation where you can develop boundaries. And same thing too in regards to gambling, connections with casinos or other elements, banned substances that student athletes aren't allowed to take from the drug policies and so forth. So there are areas that they can't. And I personally don't know all the rules on this. We're all going to be much more in tune to it as we go forward. And some of them haven't been finalized. But that's what they're trying to break up so that, you don't have the starting five of a team at 5 different car dealerships. And then your car dealership says, well, shoot, why have you? I can take one of those 5, especially your All-American. So that's where they're trying to balance it. And I hope people can appreciate it just sitting back that do you want to see one individual get a lot at the expense of a bunch of other student athletes who need those resources, including some starters on some great teams. Maybe it's the offensive guard who's still an important part of that team, but he's not going to get the publicity of the quarterback or defensive end or whatever it may be.
Okay, so I just one more on that because I'm trying to figure this out. So in essence, they can't go to your car dealership, Coconut Point, but could they go to another guy and be doing the ads for the BMW dealership, or is it a category that no kid could get money from if the university has someone in that category?
I can't 100% answer it. My general knowledge is that it's a category, but
gotcha.
I could be wrong.
Okay, no.
And again, keeping in mind the thought of, take especially a football team. If, you had a town that had X number of car dealers and, all these really good football players at Alabama were now the representatives, would they want to do as much? Now, they would for Nick Saban, but, there's other scenarios there where they do a lot more than just the head football coach. They're giving assistant coaches and others as part of their compensation. So I don't really know. We'll find out. And again, it's going to start at the highest levels with these bigger schools, and then we'll figure it out by then.
Boy, you could see where the compliance department is just going to love this, right? As if they didn't have enough on their plate already. We're talking with Ken Kavanaugh, the athletic director at FGCU. He joins us on the Goldberg, New and Abraham Law Firm hotline, goldberg-law.com. Ken, are you in favor of what the NCAA just did? We've had you on the show in the past. We're in favor of the athletes getting stipends. You are not. All right. But are you in favor of this?
Well, first of all, I'm in favor of the student athletes getting what they need, and we have cost of attendance. I mean, some schools you can get up to $7,000 or $8,000 in cost of attendance. So that before they weren't providing that, and it seemed it was unfair that a student athlete couldn't get the maximum amount that a general student could get in terms of financial aid packaging and so forth. The issue for me really comes down to the bigger enterprise. There's only so many dollars out there. We're finding it out now with COVID. Yes, there's some schools that are going to easily get through COVID because they got so much money and television revenue and so forth. But there's a lot of schools that don't, that provide opportunities for kids, even at the Power 5 level, that this is going to be a difficult situation. You've already seen 2 schools that have dropped sports, and I hope more don't. But it comes down to the overall ability to sustain this within the resources that are out there. So for me, I don't have a problem with this. If somebody's a really good musician or a really good artist and it's shown that they're capable as a general student to receive those resources. It's just that they happen to play in a sport. I think that's fine. And there's some other examples, for instance, a jersey. If you've got the name of a jersey of one of your student athletes and you're selling it either at your bookstore or somewhere in the local community, but the university's getting a cut of, well, then I think the reason they're buying that jersey, it's not because it was your school with somebody wearing number 41. It was because Chris Sale's name was on it if he was here as the star player for us, for instance. So I think there's some certainly reasonable, easy ways to say, yes, that's definitely attached to the kid. But, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. And art, some people like certain art and some people like other. Literally, I'm just going to use this as an exaggeration, but somebody gets a canvas and with some crayons writes their name or something, and now some booster decides to say, oh, that's worth $15,000. That's an exaggeration, but, there's going to be some gray area in the middle there as to really, was that really art, or did they have a system that they've now set up that XYZ school is now doing? And that's what everybody's really worried about. And they're worried about, I saw a lot of quotes today from peer ADs at the Power Fives, and they're the lower resource ones who are worried about that. How are we going to compete with that? So I think that's the element that everybody probably from a common sense standpoint knows we got to try to figure out, but I don't know how you totally figure it out.
Ken, thanks for your time and your insight. Congratulations on the big announcement that the 2013 Dunk City team will headline your first ever Hall of Fame class. And I think we all just can't wait for 6 months from now, and that hopefully things are as good as they can be in life and in sports. Ken, thanks for your time and your insight. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much, guys. Everybody stay safe. God bless.
Ken Kavanaugh is the athletic director at FGCU, I believe 11 years on the job now, and he joined us on the Goldberg Noon Abraham Law Firm Hotline. Local people, local practice, local knowledge.